Welcome back to Recliner Gaming. Today I want to take some time to go over my thoughts and opinions on the Halo Infinite multiplayer beta. And I did just record this whole entire video and my mic was muted. So I'm going to go for it again and hopefully the second take will just sound better anyways. So to get into a little bit of background, I grew up playing Halo nonstop for years. I started fizzling out around like 2012 when I started getting into the Call of Duty series. And if you are one of the more OG Halo players, you kind of know the series started to go downhill with the release of Halo 4 around this time. So my point of view is coming from a more old style Halo player mixed in with a bunch of other FPS games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Rainbow Six Siege, things like that. And at the time of recording this, we're about 8 or 9 days away from the full release of the game. So I've had about 2 weeks of playing the beta. So I've been able to try all the different game modes, weapons, and maps and get a pretty good feel for it. And then also with the help of some friends, I was able to get the Onyx rank last night. But I'll talk more about the ranking system soon. And now that you have a little context of where my opinion is coming from, let's go ahead and hop into some of the pros of the game. So number one, and most importantly, the game is just straight up fun. It kind of feels like I'm playing a really modern Halo 3. I haven't had this much fun in a game since like Black Ops 3 or Rainbow Six Siege. The pacing of the game is really fast and exciting, and all the objective game modes make everyone feel like they're a part of the action, even if they're not getting a ton of kills, which also makes it feel really rewarding for sticking together and using teamwork. And I mean, overall, it's just a really solid, fun game. And then to top it all off, it is free. So everybody that has an Xbox or a PC should be able to get the game and at least try it out or play some fun game modes with some friends. And with that, the game visually looks really good and then also feels great. So I'm personally running the game on a decently strong PC and I haven't had any problems with it. And I have friends running the game from a day one release Xbox all the way up to the Series X and then different levels of PCs. So something that's really important to me coming from a controller player, I really like to fine tune all my settings. And this Halo gives you a ton of options from dead zones to acceleration. You can tinker with every zoom level. There's a ton of different things you can do to really fine tune your shot, which is something that's extremely important in a game like Halo where accuracy is key. So I'll put a quick screenshot up of my sensitivity settings so you can get an idea of what I use. And then in the future, I'll have a more in-depth video of all my settings and why I chose certain things. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. And next is the level of customization on your armor. Some people, this is the most important part of the game, and to some, you know, they could care less. I fall somewhere in the middle. I used to love grinding for armor back in Halo Reach. So I'm kind of excited and hoping it does kind of fall somewhere in the line of that. I haven't gotten to dive too deep into the armor customizations on this Halo yet, but I've seen a lot of armor and they all look really good. But I have heard it's extremely hard to grind them out, so I really don't know. I'll have to go a little deeper into that. But I know already I'm liking it more than I have the past two Halos. And then next is probably my favorite aspect to take away from the beta, and that's the ranking system. I really like that it has multiple queue options. You can do open or solo duo queue, and if you do solo duo, you can pick your input device. So maybe sometime in the future, I'll finally try out mouse and keyboard and do a ranked series on that. And also the ranking system doesn't solely depend on wins. So as long as you're getting objective points or kills and you lose, you won't always go down in rank. Usually at bare minimum, you'll just stay the same. Unlike other games like Rainbow Six Siege, League of Legends, or I think even Rocket League. But in Halo Infinite, it's completely the opposite. As long as you're doing good, you at least won't go down. So this does make it really fun to play ranked with friends of all different skill levels. Like I said, I play it in Diamond and just hit Onyx, and I'm playing with friends from Silver and Gold. I don't think I have any friends in Bronze yet, so we'll wait and see about that. But it does make it worthwhile to play with them and try to grind and get their rank higher because it doesn't negatively affect yours as long as you're playing well. Before I get into the last positive I have of the beta, I want you to know that overall I have a really good feeling about the game, and most of the cons I'm about to talk about are not game breaking and don't ruin the game in any way, but I do think the game can improve a lot from what I'm about to say. So for the last positive, I want to go over the weapons and guns. So I've really enjoyed the level of like uniqueness from weapon to weapon. Each weapon seems to have a very specific skill you need to master to use it at a higher level. So just for a quick example, you have like the Mangler or the shock rifle. The Mangler is pretty hard to use because of its bullet drop and velocity. But once you get the hang of it and throw in some punches, you can almost always give yourself the advantage in any fight. And then the shock rifle can be used as a long-range sniper rifle if you're extremely accurate. And if you're not as accurate, it can be used as area denial or can even disable vehicles, But with all that being said, we're about to move into the cons. And even though there are a lot of pros about the weapons and guns in the game, it's also one of the biggest negative areas I have. And to start off, it doesn't seem like there's a large selection of weapons to choose from or use compared to the older Halos. Now, I'm assuming this will change with the launch of the full game, but at the moment, I'm very underwhelmed with the selection of guns. For instance, we don't even have the OG shotgun that was basically in every Halo ever. And there's no Spartan laser. Like, the skewer is super cool and fun, but there still has to be a place for a Spartan laser. Nothing makes you feel better than zapping a Banshee out of the sky with a laser. And there's plenty of other guns, I would like to see from past Halos, but those are the two main ones. And then also, I'd like to see some adjustments or some tweaks to some of the weapons that are already in the game. And my mind may change on some of this because I haven't used all the guns a ton. But to start off, I feel like the assault rifle shreds a little too easy and doesn't really have any downside to using it. Usually the assault rifle fits one little specific area that you might want to use it at. But right now, I feel like even at medium ranges, I'm extremely confident with it. And then even at close range, it might be one of my most go-to weapons. So I think I would mainly like to see its range accuracy toned down a little bit so it can fit in that close medium range area better and not be able to reach out so far and beat the pistol or the battle rifle or commando. And then next with the sniper rifle, when you no scope, the bloom takes forever to recenter. I'm not really sure why they would nerf no scoping. I feel like it's already a very high level skill and you should be rewarded for doing it, not punished. So I wouldn't mind if they took away bloom from the sniper altogether. And then next, the energy sword. This one I'm already on the fence about. But when I first started using it, it seemed like it had no range or lunge. And you had to basically be touching somebody with it to kill them. But with using it a little more, I've kind of realized you do get quite a bit of speed boost with it. And right now with the lack of a radar, you can move around the map pretty quick and sneak up on people. But I do really miss flying across the map and, slashing somebody from, it feels like a mile away. It just really gave the old energy sword a lot of personality. So maybe we'll see some of that return. That would be really nice. And then the last critique I have about weapons is the weapon placement on the maps. And I'm not necessarily talking about the power weapons, but mainly the medium tier ones. And this deals a lot more with the big team battle maps, but it does have some relevance to the smaller maps. So what I'm trying to say is that there are very few weapons to pick up and use on each map, and most of them are way off on the edges of the map, away from all the action. I miss seeing battle rifles leaned up against rocks and extra grenades and just anything all over the map. I feel like I have to go on a side quest just to go pick up some plasma grenades over in a corner. So I'm hoping to see more weapons spawning in the center of the maps or some of the main areas of the map. And I would be perfectly okay if they didn't use the spawning boxes. I do think it's really cool and it's really useful and competitive, but I don't mind picking up a needler off the grass or a battle rifle leaned up against a tree. I think that gives a lot of character to the game, and I kind of wish some of that would return. And then next, this one has been a big one for me too. The vehicles are very lackluster. And what I mean by this is that I don't really fear any of the vehicles or even really care to use them. I'm not saying all the vehicles are terrible, but anytime you're in one, you're constantly getting EMP'd or just sniped out with the skewer. It used to be really rewarding to EMP a vehicle with a plasma pistol, but now there's like 5 different options to EMP a vehicle, and you can just honestly toss out a dynamo grenade and it'll stop any vehicle that drives by. And then on top of that, if you aren't being EMP'd, you're constantly flipping over in your Warthog or Mongoose. The vehicles just seem like they only weigh about like 5 pounds and they're knocked around and flipped so easily. So I would love to see some weight added to the vehicle so they stick to the ground a little bit better, and maybe make it a little more of a challenge to get an EMP off on one. And this might make the vehicles a little bit more of a viable choice to ride around in compared to what they are now. The next thing I want to talk about are the maps. Now, the maps in this game aren't bad maps by any means, but there isn't enough of them. They're all very similar in how they play, and there's only maybe 1 or 2 that I would consider really good maps. So I think there's about 10 maps in total. You got like 3 big team maps and maybe 7 4v4 maps. And out of all the 4v4 maps, I think only 2 aren't the really small square type maps. And with them mostly being that really small square type map, the spawning can be a really big issue. I've spawned multiple times looking at several enemies, spawned right onto grenades, and I've also watched people spawn right in front of me. So I would love to see a larger variety of maps like Sword Base or Spire from Halo Reach, or Last Resort and High Ground from Halo 3. And this would just be able to mix up the fun. And I do believe more apps will be added at launch of the full game. And even if they're not, once Forge hits, there's going to be maps made like non-stop. So we're going to get more maps soon, but right now, there just aren't enough good ones to play. Now next is one of my petty but extremely annoying negatives in the game, and that's the radar. I feel like the radar is completely useless. If someone appears on my radar, I have about a half a second to turn around before they punch me in the back. And being Halo, my sensitivity is extremely low, so I can never make a full 180 in time to even be in the fight. So I think right now the radar is set to about like 18 meters. So I think it would help out a lot if it was bumped up to about 25 or so. And then also on top of that, I wouldn't mind if invisibility would show up on radar if it's walking at full speed, because invisibility is extremely strong right now too. And I think overall this would benefit more people for learning how to use radar and developing that skill, instead of the radar just being completely useless right now. And then for my last two cons, I hope the connection gets a little bit better to tone down the times you feel like you get shot around a corner or die around a corner. And last but not least, please add a way to mute teammates or other players in the game. I don't know why it's not an option, but we need it. It's a must in any multiplayer game, so please add that. And then to end on a positive note, I do think Halo Infinite is overall an extremely good game. Most of the cons I have should be fixed at full launch, and with Campaign and Forge coming soon, it's only going to get better. And then a few side notes, I will be doing a Gun Guru series for all the weapons in Halo Infinite. So if you're wanting some tips on how to get even more out of each weapon, make sure to subscribe to see that in the future. And if you want to see some of our short form content, we just hit 1 million views on the Recliner Gaming hashtag over on TikTok. So I'll have that link down below. And then thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I see